Have you ever felt like you're always busy, yet not really moving forward? There's always something to do, always somewhere to go, but in reality, you're just running in circles. The harder you try, the more it feels like you're stuck in the same place. You're not alone. Most people fall into this trap, the trap of feeling busy without creating real progress. Meanwhile, there's a small group, the top 1%. They do less than you, move slower than you, speak less than you, but every step they take creates deep, lasting change in their lives. They don't move fast. They move in the right direction. So what sets them apart? It's not higher IQ. It's not more time. It's not superior skills. It's the fact that they think differently. They possess a mindset most people never learn or never dare to learn. Because it's not popular. It's not taught in school. It's not trendy. In fact, it might even get you misunderstood, labeled as crazy or weird. But it's that very way of thinking that becomes the foundation for their wealth, their position, and their freedom to choose how they live. And the big question is, if you think like the 99%, how can you expect to live like the 1%? If you truly want to change the game, to break free from the cycle of busyness without impact, to move forward, instead of endlessly circling familiar ground, then the first thing you need to change is not your job, not your skills, not your environment. It's your mindset. Mindset is the starting point. Mindset is the tool of design. Mindset is the foundation on which everything else is built. And in this video, you'll join me as we unpack how the top 1% think and act to create radically different outcomes. Most people start their day by checking their calendar. They look at what needs to be done, who they're meeting, what deadlines are approaching. They let the schedule dictate their rhythm and unconsciously allow others to direct the flow of their energy. But the top 1% think differently. They don't live by a calendar. They live by a vision. Their schedule isn't just a list of reactions to external demands. It's a blueprint carefully designed to serve what they're building in 3, 5, even 10 years from now. Ask an average person, "What are you doing today?" And they'll list tasks. Ask someone in the 1%, "What are you building today?" And they'll speak about long-term goals. That's a huge difference. Most people live to complete. The elite live to create. They know exactly where they're going. And because they're clear on the destination, they're not easily pulled into things that look important, but don't actually move them forward. They don't chase busy. They simplify their schedule to maximize impact. They boldly say no to what seems necessary to reserve energy for what's truly strategic. If you look at their calendar, you won't see it packed. You'll see space, time to think, white space to reset, intentional pauses to observe, because they understand. Space on your calendar is space for your mind, and your mind is your greatest asset. You can't think big when you're always in a rush. You can't build something massive if you're constantly drowning in the micro. So if you truly want to step into the mindset of the top 1%, don't start by trying to do more. Start by choosing to live with more clarity. Clarity on what you want, clarity on what you're building, and clarity on what truly deserves space in your schedule. There's a defining trait shared by those in the top 1%. They don't think like the crowd. They think differently, they act differently, and they succeed in their own unique way. When most people choose the safe path, they choose the right path. When the majority chases trends, they step back, observe, and move based on their own vision. When society says, "This is how it has to be," they ask, "Do I truly believe that?" And if not, they're willing to take a different route even if no one supports them, even if they're misunderstood, even if no one's ever done it before. That's contrarian thinking. Average minds fear judgment, so they try to stay logical, acceptable, and aligned with the crowd. But high-level thinkers understand this. Different results come from different thinking. They don't try to be weird. They're simply loyal to their own inner logic, and they don't need external validation to feel valuable. Because they understand. Every pioneering mindset is met with resistance at first. Every revolutionary idea was once considered ridiculous. And every breakthrough began with someone who dared to think differently. Look at history. The game changers were never easy to accept when they first started. Steve Jobs was called a dreamer. Elon Musk was labeled crazy. Thomas Edison's teacher said he was slow. But it was their refusal to think like everyone else that opened doors the world had never seen. And don't think you need to change the world to apply this mindset. You just need to change yourself, and that alone will trigger a ripple effect throughout your life. When you dare to think differently, you act differently. When you act differently, you create different results. And those results become the strongest proof of the mindset you chose. So the real question isn't, what do others think? It's, what way of thinking truly aligns with my values and vision? Because if you think like everyone else, you'll live like everyone else. But if you dare to think differently, you'll unlock doors most people will never even notice exist. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that most people work very hard. They're constantly busy, chasing deadlines, trying to optimize every minute. They multitask, juggling several things at once, always in a rush. But here's the truth. Hard work doesn't always mean effective work. Being busy doesn't always mean you're making progress. The top 1% understand this clearly. They don't try to do more things. They focus on doing the right things, the actions that create the highest leverage for their long-term goals. They don't measure productivity by hours worked. They measure it by the impact each action has on the bigger system. Imagine two people. One is digging 10 holes, each 1 meter deep. The other digs one hole 10 meters deep. Who's more likely to reach water? The second one. The first one just ends up tired and frustrated. The 1% think like the second person. They're not distracted by tasks that look important but don't move the needle. They dedicate 80% of their energy to the 20% of actions that are strategic, the Pareto principle in action. A key part of how they choose what to focus on is this. They always look for leverage. What task can create 10x results from the effort I put in? What can be automated? What, if done well, would make everything else easier? While the average person tries to check everything off their to-do list, the elite shorten the list and prioritize what delivers the greatest return. They're not trying to control time. They're trying to multiply the value of each unit of time. And they understand this. It's not about how much you do, it's about where you place your energy. If you're busy but not progressing, you might be missing leverage. If you're working hard but still stuck, you may be spreading your energy too thin. To think like the 1% is to ask better questions. Does this create long-term value? Does this move me closer to my vision? If I could only do one thing today, what's the most worthwhile? The answers won't always be easy. But if you're willing to choose wisely, you won't need to do everything. One of the most subtle yet incredibly powerful traits in the mindset of the top 1% is this. They don't try to be great at everything. They choose the right niche and become exceptional within it. Your niche isn't just about a market or a job. It's the deep intersection of three things. Your natural strengths, what you love and can commit to long term, what the world actually needs and is willing to pay for. When these three elements overlap, you step into your true niche. And in that space, you don't need to force yourself to stand out. You naturally shine. Most people spread themselves too thin. They try to learn everything, chase every opportunity, pursue dozens of goals at once. The result? Burnout, scattered focus, no real leverage. The top 1% are different. They're not greedy. They're sharp. They observe themselves, understand what they already have, and then focus all their energy in the right direction. They know it's not the person who does the most who wins. It's the one who does the right thing, in alignment with their nature, and does it deeply, consistently, and strategically. Your niche is the place where you don't have to pretend. where you don't have to try to look good because you're actually being your best. And when you're standing firmly in your niche, you make clearer decisions. You attract better opportunities. You collaborate with the right people. You build a strong, authentic personal brand. The problem is, most people never stop to ask, what am I truly aligned with? Is this my definition of success, or am I just copying someone else's? If you haven't found your niche yet, start by observing. What activity makes you lose track of time? What do people often come to you for? What would you willingly do even if you weren't paid yet? Those are signals. And when you gather enough signals, the path becomes clear. It doesn't have to be wide. It just has to be right. Most people live in reactive mode. They react to incoming emails. They react to the news. They react to other people's actions. They react to their own emotions. Their day is shaped by what happens to them, not by what they choose to create. In contrast, the top 1% live in proactive mode. They don't wait for circumstances to decide their attitude. They set their mindset, plan, and principles ahead of time and act accordingly. To them, each day is part of a larger strategy. They don't react to the environment. They design the environment to serve their goals. And here's the thing. Shifting from reactive to proactive mode doesn't require you to change the whole world. It only requires you to change how you start your day. Most people wake up and grab their phone. They check social media, read the news, reply to messages. Their mind is pulled outward before the day even begins. The 1% wake up and reconnect with themselves. They reset their mental state. They write in their journal. They review their goals. They breathe, visualize, give thanks. It doesn't take much time. Just a few minutes, but enough to start the day with clarity, intention, and strength. Being proactive isn't about controlling everything. It's about controlling yourself, even when you can't control the world. You can't decide if it rains or shines today, but you can decide whether you move through the rain consciously or let yourself be swept away. If you keep living in reaction mode, you'll be ruled by things beyond your control. But if you shift to proactive mode, you begin to reshape the entire flow of your life. And that is what the 1% do every single day. One of the biggest reasons many people never move far in life is because they're stuck in short-term thinking. They only think about this month, this quarter, this year. Their focus is on how to survive, how to get by, how not to fall behind. Meanwhile, the top 1% are playing an entirely different game. They think long-term. They plan for 10 years, 20 years, and they take action today with that vision in mind. When you have a big goal in the distance, you behave differently. You're no longer in a rush. You're no longer easily shaken by short-term outcomes. You don't panic over temporary failures. Most people quit too soon because they can't see the bigger picture. They let today's emotions dictate long-term decisions. The elite do the opposite. They let long-term goals guide their emotions in the present. They don't choose what's easy now. They choose what's right later. They don't need to look flashy today. As long as they're building something sustainable for tomorrow, they don't need instant approval. As long as they're staying on course. You might think they're slower than others, but in reality, they're laying a deeper foundation. And while others are still scrambling to fix cracks, they've quietly finished building the entire structure. Long-term thinking is also how they protect their energy. They don't waste it on petty distractions. They don't burn themselves out over meaningless battles. They save their strength for what truly matters. And the beautiful thing is, when you think long-term, you live with more direction. You stop doing things just to score quick wins. You start living like someone who's building something lasting for yourself and maybe even for others too. So, if you want to start thinking like the 1%, stop asking, what can I accomplish this week? Start asking, if I want to be there in 10 years, what do I need to plant today? There's something most people don't realize. The majority of decisions we make in life don't actually come from freedom. They come from unconscious agreement with the crowd. We learn to live by what's considered right, to do what most people do, to believe what most people believe. We fear being different. We fear judgment. We fear being left behind. But the top 1% are different. They're not afraid of being misunderstood. They're only afraid of living out of alignment with what they truly believe. They dare to walk a path no one is cheering for. They dare to pursue an idea no one else understands yet. They dare to move forward in silence because they don't need external approval to believe in their own direction. Mental freedom is a quiet form of power. It's not loud. It doesn't protest. It doesn't try to convince anyone. It simply means you think for yourself. You choose your beliefs based on real experience. You question even the things that were taught to you as truth. You don't follow the crowd, but you also don't rebel, just to be different. You choose with clarity, not fear. The average person says, "I can't do that. What will people think?" The 1% ask, "Am I living in alignment with what I truly believe?" They don't need to stand out. They just need to be true to themselves. And that inner consistency over time makes them stand out in their own way. If you want to live a different kind of life, you can't bring a mainstream mindset with you. If you want to create something truly valuable, you can't keep doing only what others expect of you. You have to be willing to sit with yourself, to listen more deeply, and to have the courage to live by that voice, even when the world doesn't understand you yet. Take a look at your life. Every result you're experiencing today is the product of the mindset you've carried with you until now. If you find yourself stuck in the same old cycles, if you feel like you're living smaller than your true potential, this isn't a moment for blame. This is a moment for awakening. You don't need to change the whole world. You just need to start by thinking differently. Differently from your old habits. Differently from the crowd. Differently from the past version of yourself. Because every major transformation always begins with one small step. Changing the way you think. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to wait until everything is perfect. You just need to choose to think differently, to see life through a new lens, and to have the courage to act on it, because only when you dare to think like the 1% do you finally give yourself a chance to live like the 1%.